As if people have withdrawn indoors after an exhausting day. A day of exhilaration, a day of exhalation, of breathing out, of a sense of release after 2 years when the teeth have been clenched shut. Because early today, the last 20...
Keep right into a quarter of a mile onto I-485 South.
Of October the 7th, 2023, those 20 were released by Hamas as part of the US-brokered peace deal. Families, sundered for more than 700 days, were reunited to the sounds of unchecked emotion. Shema Israel! That's Avi Ohana reciting, screaming perhaps the central declaration of faith in Judaism, the Shema, as he threw his arms around his son Yosef Chaim, one of the many young people kidnapped from the massacre at the Nova Music Festival 2 years ago. Those screams of catharsis and joy were echoed at other reunions. But it's also been, for a minority of Israelis, a day of particularly mixed emotions, because either they're still waiting for the bodies of their dead relatives to be returned from Gaza. So far, we think only a minority of the 28 believed to be in Gaza have been returned, or because it's a reminder
Keep stepping right.
never made it out alive. Among them is Rachel Goldberg Holling, the mother of 23-year-old Hirsch, taken hostage on October the 7th, murdered by his captors 11 months later. I spoke to her earlier today.
Today is truly a day of relief and joy, gratitude, and of course, for many families like ours, complicated, it is a bittersweet day. But today we have true elation for the hostages who are coming home alive to their families, and we have joy for those families. It's a juggling act of how do we welcome back with total jubilation these live hostages, and how do we hold and embrace these families for whom this will be an extremely tragic, if not the worst day of the rest of their lives. And the first group, it's the best day of the rest of their lives.
And Rachel, one of the hostages who's been released today, Alon Oel, I mean, you've got a link to him through Hirsch, because they were captured from the Nova Music Festival, where there was that terrible massacre, and captured at the same time.
Alon and Hirsch were hiding in the same bomb shelter on October 7th,
Keep right after 3/4 of a mile onto I-485 South toward Martin Freeway.
There were 29 young, beautiful, crunchy granola music festival goers who were cowering in that bomb shelter, and 18 of them were killed instantly by machine gun fire and hand grenades being thrown in. 4 of the young men were wounded and taken alive, kidnapped into Gaza. They were Alon Ohel, Hirsch, my son.
Keep next right. Keep right after 2 miles onto North Carolina 51 toward Matthews.
We go all the way to
Ray Road, yeah. Guess where I get to go tomorrow?
Wait.
I can't wait till that one driver comes back, showed up to the house at 6:40 talking about we're gonna beat the Panthers.
Oh.
I can't wait. Yeah, we play a team next week that Jimmy Fallon says that if you show up for them, if you show up early to a Jets game, you could play.
Leave it to Jimmy Fallon.
Yep.
What's Gutfeld been saying lately?
I haven't watched Fox News lately. I've been busy watching motorcycle stuff.
Oh, you normally watch Gutfeld.
Yeah.
Leaders, also the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas was in attendance, and along with them a dignitary of our own, Ugo Bashega, our Middle East correspondent, who's been in Sharm all day. Ugo, I mean, President Trump loves a ceremony, and there was certainly ceremony. What else did you pick out of today?
I thought it was very interesting, Tim, that here in Sharm el-Sheikh there was a huge banner behind all these leaders and a very big message: peace in the Middle East. And we know that this is not the case, but this is how the president is selling this deal, this plan for Gaza, that this is the beginning of something bigger, the beginning of something for the entire region. In Israel, he talked about this being the historic dawn of a new Middle East. He even suggested that Israel could normalize relations with Iran just months after the United States joined Israel in bombing Iran. And here again, he talked about this being an unprecedented moment, a historic moment. So obviously he is selling this as something that goes beyond Gaza. But the reality is that this is not the case, and that we are here to celebrate only the first phase of the plan for Gaza. We still don't know what happens next. We know that major obstacles remain in terms of discussions over the future of Hamas, the scale of the Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, and obviously about who is going to govern Gaza and who is going to help rebuild
What did he do?
Gaza. The president said negotiations were already underway over those terms related to the next phase of his plan, but still we don't have a timeline, we don't have concrete details about what is going to happen next, despite all the optimism that has been shared by the president here today.
You talk about the fact that, you know, so many details are still to be nailed down. There was one potentially intriguing moment where Donald Trump wielded his presidential Sharpie and signed a document that was co-signed by Turkey, Egypt and Qatar. Do we know what's in that document?
I think the terms of the deal, I mean, we haven't seen the full deal, so we don't have, you know, the terms about what's been agreed. We know that this is the first phase of the deal that was agreed last week here in Sharm el-Sheikh. It was about the ceasefire, it was about the hostage release, and then we have the remaining points, which include the creation of a force for Gaza, an international force for Gaza, and very vaguely talks about reconstruction, but we don't have, you know, the details. And I mean, we haven't seen the plan, we haven't seen the document.
Yeah, indeed. Many things still to be ironed out, as Hugo was telling us from Sharm el-Sheikh. That's it for the time being from me in Jerusalem, but I'll be back with you in about 15 minutes for more reflections, particularly from some Palestinians. This is NewsHour. It's coming to you live from Jerusalem with me, Tim Franks, and also Sean Lay in London.
Good afternoon, it's 3:19 and you're listening to BBC NewsHour here on 90.7 WFAE. I'm Mike Szymanski. Early voting starts Thursday in Charlotte's municipal elections. The only competitive race on the city council is in District 6, formerly represented by Tariq Bakari, who stepped down. Now his wife Krista is running as a Republican against our guest and Democrat Kimberly Owens. Charlotte Talks is tonight at 8 o'clock. Support comes from our listeners and Charlotte Preparatory School. From pre-K through grade 8, Charlotte Prep offers deep learning, personal growth, and purposeful challenges. Open houses are scheduled October 22nd and November 5th.
Son.
More at
What?
charlotteprep.org/visit.
Oh.
There'll be more from Tim in Jerusalem here on NewsHour in about 15 minutes' time. Well, in his speech to the Knesset, Donald Trump invoked a vision for the Middle East that went well beyond a temporary ceasefire, beyond even peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians.
It's the start of a grand concord and lasting harmony for Israel and all the nations of what will soon be a truly magnificent region. I believe that so strongly. This is the historic dawn of a new Middle East.
The hard yards, though, have still to be run. Does a president known for his impatience in cutting delays have the tolerance and the patience to deal with those used to what has passed for progress in the Middle East? A question I put earlier to Katie McFarland, a veteran of Republican administrations since the 1970s, who served as Deputy National Security Advisor in the first Trump administration in 2016.
What he's done in the 20-point peace plan where he initially got all the Arab countries to sign on, and then got other countries in the world as well to sign on. So all the Muslim countries have signed on to it. But what it has done is effectively isolated Hamas. Why? Because part of the 20-point plan is that Hamas has to lay down its arms and is not part of the new government that's going to be formed. Hamas is out of it. Hamas is finished. He also turned to Bibi Netanyahu and said, if Hamas doesn't want to sign on to this, then finish the job. The other thing he did, though, was he reined Israel in, and Israel had to apologize to Qatar for the bombing in Doha. But then the final thing, and this is why I think this ceasefire will become a peace agreement, is that it separates Hamas from the Palestinian people.
Many of those people who you say are on Donald Trump's side with this plan have persisted and repeatedly said, including President al-Sisi in Sharm el-Sheikh at the signing deal just this evening, have said peace can only come if there is a Palestinian state side by side with an Israeli state. If Prime Minister Netanyahu is opposed to it, if his cabinet includes ministers who sincerely believe that Israel should annex what the world sees as occupied territories, I just don't see how you get beyond that point.
One of the points in the 20-point plan is that Israel is not allowed to make new settlements on the West Bank or in Gaza. Another point is not to say we are now establishing a Palestinian state, but we are now taking steps that might eventually lead to. So I think that the sense of is either or. No, I think it's an iterative process that will go on with time.
Just one name that was kind of singled out by the president in his speech, King Abdullah of Jordan, who he said had been a great help in getting a ceasefire. But he has told the BBC today that the achievements that are part of this can only be done if Benjamin Netanyahu is no longer prime minister. In other words, Arab leaders too see him as a block in progress, because in a sense, he's been a politician for 30 years. He is part of that older generation who is kind of stuck in a position that arguably Donald Trump isn't stuck in, because he's come, as you say, to look at this with a fresh eye.
But Donald Trump's a 70-year-old man, so I don't think we're talking about age as much as attitude.
Right.
And when you're talking about one country...
Do you think Benjamin Netanyahu can change his attitude, is willing to change his attitude?
I think if you look at what's happened in the last several weeks, first of all, President Trump convinced Prime Minister Netanyahu to make a phone call to the Qatari leadership and say, we're not going to attack again, we apologize for that. That's a huge step that the Israeli Prime Minister has made. And
the phone call is not the same as conceding a state on land next to your own.
Yet. To have anyone who is now going to say, well, this is not going to work because of this one little thing, I think, please.
It's not a little thing to many of the people listening to this program.
Time will tell. Okay. And let us see where we are. And as the 20-point plan said, there are great restrictions on Israel as well. And the 20-point plan also doesn't say Palestinian state day after tomorrow, but it doesn't guarantee one, it doesn't not guarantee one. It just says let the process begin.
Are you confident that President Trump, with all the other pressures that are on a US president, will be able to sustain his interest, his commitment to this over the 4 years of his term?
Completely. This is one of the major legacies that he'll leave the world, and he's...
Okay. And I love watching. And I miss watching. I got to hear road noise today.
Yeah, you did. Lots of it. Lots and lots of it. Holy Christ.
What?
This shit went everywhere.
What went everywhere?